Never, I mean never get too attached to your real estate for so many reasons. This is what I teach. And I gotta admit, even with all of that being said, I'm breaking my own rule right now because I'm about to list my tiny home in Joshua Tree, which is the greatest investment that I've ever made. And yeah, I'm a little bit in my feels about it, if I'm being honest, which I think I can be at this point, right? We know each other, we're cool. I don't want to trauma dump on you or anything like that. What do you think was happening here? Okay, so it looks like some kind of old basketball hoop here, swing looped here, and I just feel like I'm in Home Alone right now. Oh, I know what it is. This is a swing that just chills right here, but they tie it up to the side so that a car doesn't hit it. Huh. MacGyvery. I like it.
By the way, today's video is brought to you by Baselane, but a little more on them later.
The real reason I think I'm in my feels about this property is because it's a property that I never expected to change my life in the way that it did. And not only did it change my life, what was significant about this tiny house in Joshua Tree was that I needed it to work. Like I had no backup option if that project failed, and everything, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, everything was on the line. Check out this little tiny house that could totally be on Airbnb. Very relevant for today's video. Huh? Oh yeah, come on, little window, throw a little AC unit in there, little composting toilet. Baby, you got yourself an Airbnb stew.
Baby, I had a stew going.
I think I'd like my money back.
Let me catch you up on the origin story of tiny homes by Raw Build. Two projects specifically were such a foundation for the platform that I'd go on to build. The first one was in LA. I built this as an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, in my backyard, and that came out to $72,000. And because of that $72,000, I increased the value of my main house. I was able to do a cash out refi, pull some money out, and ultimately that would allow me to get a home equity line of credit against my house that I would then use to build this guy. And remember earlier when I said that I needed my Joshua Tree tiny house to work because everything was on the line? Well, multiply that times 10, and that's how badly I needed my Los Angeles tiny house to work, because your boy was in credit card debt. Lots of it, because I thought that building my first tiny house would cost $40,000, and it ended up costing $72,000. So, so thank goodness it did work. I was able to force appreciation on my property, clear out my debts, and you know, ever since then it's rented pretty dang steadily on Airbnb. And of course, because everything was on the line and it worked, I was like, hey, why not significantly increase the risk in my life and do it again in Joshua Tree? Maybe I got a little greedy, but I doubled down and it worked again. Oh my God. Guys, I almost died. And by almost died, I mean this dog just ran up at me from behind a fence and scared the crap out of me. If you have a dog that barks, why? Why do you let them hang out in the front yard in front of a sidewalk where kids and parents walk? It's not like All right, I'm going to my studio, come on. Okay, I'm back in the studio, and I forgot that I have a client call for Funkit to talk to them about designing their cabin. So let's hop into that really fast. I am selling that property, unfortunately.
That's the one you said, oh.
That was gonna get built, but yeah.
That was your original baby, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You can do it.
Oh, Rob, that's sad.
That's
Okay, now that that's out the way, let's talk about the tiny house. So let's talk about why I even built the LA tiny house to begin with, and that's because I wanted to set myself up. Oh, hello, little lady. You brought something? Okay, let's see it. What is it? Count 2 sheep?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I love you. It says lovely with a koala bear on it. Are you my little koala bear?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we gonna make sushi later?
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. What was I saying? I'm always just pulled in 1,000 directions. Ah, yes, LA. Why I built my LA tiny house was simple. I wanted to set myself up for life. And I knew that I would remain house poor in Los Angeles if I didn't figure out a way to make more money. And I had a full-time job and didn't have a ton of time to go out and build a bunch of income streams, but I had started renting my studio downstairs and I loved having that income stream. And so I thought, hey, why don't I just bang out a tiny house in the backyard? That should take 2 weeks. And then I'll make even more rental income. And yeah, 2 weeks turned into 14 months, $72,000. You get it. But that really did give way to a pretty solid set of DIY DIY and construction skills that I would eventually use to parlay into my Joshua Tree tiny house, which I want to talk about why I built that tiny house. Now remember, tiny house in LA, I built that to set myself up for life, which I think I accomplished. Now, I built the LA tiny house to set me up for life, but the reason that I built the Joshua Tree tiny house was to set up my parents for life. Many of you may know this, but I actually don't know. My parents were actually immigrants from Mexico. My dad was a doctor. My mom had a great job, and they sacrificed a lot coming to America to build a life that their kids could flourish in. And, you know, I saw my parents struggle and work many jobs to put food on the table. And there's always this interesting thing to experience as a child of a parent. You kind of see your parents' dreams die to make way for your dreams. Now, interestingly, us as the child sees that as a negative thing because we feel bad that our parents had to give everything up in order for us to succeed in life. But the one thing that I'm really coming to terms with in life is that that is the goal of every parent. I see it as a negative thing that my parents sacrificed everything for me, but they see it as their greatest achievement. And I think you need to go to the restroom, erase everything I just said. Pee pee or poo poo, go downstairs and do that. And then you can come back up here if you want, okay? Kids, man. I'm not set up for kids poop up here. I don't have a little stool. I don't have wipes. What was I saying? I was just about to give this whole spiel. It's like, it's the greatest goal for your kids to do the things that they want. And then my daughter's like, I need to go poop. And I'm like, okay. Way to ruin a moment, Isla.
Hey, really fast, we're talking about Casita Conejo right now, and anytime I think back to that time, I think about how little I knew about financial and expense management, which is why I'm really excited to talk about today's sponsor, Baselane. See, Baselane is the ultimate all-in-one banking platform that is built specifically for real estate investors. You can set up as many bank accounts as you want, and you can assign all of those bank accounts to specific properties, and on top of that, you can earn a pretty juicy APY on your checkings account, which I think is kind of a game changer because usually you have to deposit your money into a high yield savings account, and when you want to access that money you have to transfer it over and this and that. But if you're earning it on your checking account, it kind of takes out all that hassle. And like I said earlier, whenever I was going through the Conejo build, I really had no idea what I was doing in terms of expense management, as in I was literally tracking all of my expenses in a Google spreadsheet, and the concept of bookkeeping did not exist for me. I made a lot of mistakes back then that Baselane can save you from making. But what's really cool about Baselane is that you can actually run all of your bookkeeping through their platform. It is super easy to categorize and track all of your expenses. And you can even connect and integrate with a lot of the tools that you use every day, like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, and so many others. And look, if you're a long-term rental investor, then they've also got cool benefits and features for you like rent collection and tenant screening. I wish I had Baselane when I started, but the good news is that I have it now, and you can too. So sign up for Baselane today using my link in the description down below. Because when you do, you'll get a $100 bonus when you fund your account. Okay, back to the video.
I see it as a negative thing, but to a parent, it is actually their greatest achievement to be able to do that for their kids. And so my parents are more than happy with, I think, how things played out in life. And I understand this being the father of a 3.5-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. I work so hard every single day on this real estate thing and businesses and content. And I do it so that hopefully my kids don't have to worry about paying for college or don't have to worry about life in the same ways that I had to growing up, because we didn't have a ton of cash. But let me just say, I had a great life. My parents were amazing, but I had a great life because my parents struggled to lay that foundation down for us in America. But guess what? They did great. And I could have just skipped all of this, but I think it's important to say that me, as sort of the son of the family, I felt it was my duty to repay them, to set them up for retirement. And so I went out to Joshua Tree with this crazy dream, and I said, well, I built a tiny house one time for $72,000. Maybe I can do it again, but maybe this time I can bring my parents in on it and give them a new stream of income that they never could have gotten on their own. And that's exactly what I did. So here's how this one played out. I knew that I could do this again. I bought a piece of land in Joshua Tree for $12,500. I got a bid from a contractor that was far too expensive. Then I got another bid from a contractor that was still too much, but I was gonna make it work. And I thought, well, if I built the first one for $72,000, if I hire a real contractor, maybe I can do it for like 100K. I was just very naive, didn't know what I was doing. And that one all in, after it was all said and done, came in at $165,000. But the problem is I didn't have $165,000. I had an $87,000 home equity line of credit. And I came to my parents, I said, if you guys pitch in a little bit on this, I will make you 50-50 partners. And they did, it was a big bet for them. And then the rest, I use a high interest credit card, which I would never recommend to anybody, but it's what I had to do to pull this build off. And so for all intents and purposes, I built this tiny home cash, meaning I didn't go out and take out a loan from a bank to build this house because my plan was to get a cash out refi. This is basically the idea of a bank going and appraising the home and giving me up to 75% of the equity in the form of cash that I could use to repay my initial investment. And then I would have a 30-year fixed loan on that money that I pulled out. Now, what was really interesting about this property is that I had to get it appraised 3 times. The first time it appraised super high and I was like, oh my gosh, not only am I gonna get my money back, but I'm actually gonna get extra money that I can use to go invest in more real estate. And then the bank was like, nope, that's way too high. So the bank said, hey, we're gonna get another appraisal. And then the second appraisal came in at like $125,000 or something like that, meaning I would get 75% of $125,000, which was $93K, which would barely cover the home equity line of credit. So I fought them tooth and nail and I said, give me a third appraisal. I can't believe you would do this to me, this and that. And they're like, fine, we'll do the third appraisal. Well, the third appraisal came out to $222,000, which when you multiply times 0.75, because I was gonna be able to pull out 75% of the equity on this house, because in the bank's eyes, I own this property outright. 75% of $222,000 is not bad, right? $166,500. So I literally recouped every single dollar out of this investment. Not only that, I got it at a 3 or 3.25% interest rate. My mortgage on this property was $900. Because I have such a low mortgage, my expenses on this property are very, very, very little. And because it's a new construction, I haven't really had too much maintenance or capital expenditures actually flare up during my ownership of this property. So after owning this property for over 3 years and just factoring in all the income, we've made just over 6 figures in profit on this property, which has been life-changing for a lot of reasons. But the main reason being that I've gotten to send my parents a good chunk of cash. And after a while, I kind of did away with the 50-50 split and I just ended up sending them the money that came in. That's always one of my favorite moments because usually the next day my mom will send me a text that says, thank you, baby. Because I don't ever tell her whenever I'm gonna send her money. And I think I can say that this property has helped my parents retire and has set them up for life. Or so it would if I kept it. But I think I've fulfilled on my initial desire and dream for this property and yes. Aww. Just a hug, that's it?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. She's lucky, she's adorable. Which was to build a really cool property that would make me and my parents money and let us live life a little more comfortable and a little more on our terms. And this story in and of itself could just end here and it'd be the most perfect inspirational real estate story ever. Building something from the ground up, getting all your money back, making solid monthly income from it, and setting up your parents for life. And that's what I hoped and dreamed for when I built this tiny house. But what I didn't expect was how this property would change my life over and over and over again. See, the thing is that this property gave way to one of the first viral videos I ever had on the Raw Built channel. And it was a video that solidified that the Raw Built channel would go from being a DIY channel to a channel about tiny homes and Airbnb and building financial freedom through real estate. And I remember being bummed because I put so much effort into my DIY videos and I just wanted so badly for those videos to pop. And my tiny home and Airbnb videos ended up being the videos that actually popped in the algorithm. I remember being so sad about it, and one of my good friends was like, what are you sad about? I'm like, I just don't want to be the tiny house Airbnb guy. That content is so boring. And he was like, I have an idea. What if you were the not boring version of that and you were your weird, wacky self talking about Airbnb and tiny homes? And I was like, genius. And so I really embraced what the Raw Built channel would become and built a whole channel and audience around this crazy idea of going out and building a tiny house. And my tiny house actually ended up going viral. As a matter of fact, it went more viral for other people than it went for me, which to be honest was a little annoying. Always seeing my tiny house blowing up on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube, getting so many more millions of views than my content about my own dang house. But it was validation that I was onto something. And that in a nutshell is why I feel like my identity is so tied, my YouTube identity, not like my, you know what I mean. My identity as a creator is wrapped around this tiny home because it, in a weird way, gave me everything that I have today. You drawing in my book right now?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I like to draw.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell everyone to like and subscribe?
I don't want to.
What? Say like and subscribe. No? Oh, come on. Don't do this to me. If you want to make sushi later, you'll say it. Say like and subscribe. I'll take it. But all good things must come to an end, and I am selling this property, which I consider to be my greatest investment ever. And a lot of people on Instagram have been like, why, Rob? Why? If it's such a good property, why would you sell it? And the truth is that I am scaling down my portfolio. And if you haven't seen the update on that, then just give me a little bit. I'll give you more on that subject. But here's kind of what it boils down to. There is a moment in every single real estate investor's journey where they must make the decision to hold what they've got or prune, simplify, take a few chips off the table, and maybe move on to something bigger and better. And that's ultimately what I'm deciding to do with this property. I am going to sell this property so that I can 1031 it into something that I think is going to set not just me up for life, not just my parents up for life, but my kids up for life. I am under contract on the biggest deal of my life, and I want to roll all equity that I've spent so hard working for over the last 7-8 years into this property that will be an Airbnb unique stay development with tiny homes, A-frames, geodomes, hobbit homes, and so many other cool things that I have in store. My tiny house will always be the greatest investment of my life, not just financially, because all those boxes are checked, but emotionally, but evolutionarily, that's not a word. See, not only did this property give me the return of a lifetime, but it also gave me a return on my happiness, on the development of my character. It shaped who I would become as a real estate investor, but most importantly, it showed me who I was as a risk taker. This tiny house, in a weird way, is a symbol of belief in myself. And not everything works out, by the way. Things go wrong all the time. But I can say with great confidence that anything I do will eventually work out because I will figure it out. And Casita Conejo forced me to figure it out hundreds of times in the journey of that construction. And the ability to figure out is by far the most important skill, by far, that you can develop as a real estate investor. And just so you know, moving the equity from this house into this new development that I'm going all in on is still a risk, but I believe in the project and I believe in myself to exponentially grow the valuation of this development. And the cool thing is that my parents will again be part owners and partners on this new development. And it's my goal to make them millionaires, which honestly they could care less about, but I don't care because I want this and I want this for them. As for how much my tiny house will actually sell for, I'm not gonna put numbers out there because I think that would be silly, but I think we're gonna do okay. I have a good feeling about this just based on the amount of people on Instagram that are like, Rob, send me the link, I wanna buy it. And by the way, at this moment, I'm choosing not to put my links out there for anyone. If you're interested in any of my properties that I'm selling, well, you're gonna have to go and find them on the MLS just like everyone else. You're gonna have to make an offer on them based on if they fit your investing criteria, because you should be buying according to your buy box, not mine. So I'm a little sad, but I'm even more excited because I've got more tiny home builds in me. And I think Casita Conejo is a great prototype, but I think it's time to go back to my roots. And I think it's time to build more tiny houses, which I'll be able to do because we have a lot of developable acreage with this new property. If you want to see the new journey unfold and you want to be a part of it, like this video and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're notified for all the new tiny house content that's gonna be coming out on this channel. And if you wanna learn how to build tiny houses or how to build unique stays from the ground up and how to develop, this is all stuff that we cover in Host Camp. Plus many other things like how to analyze an Airbnb and how to operate an Airbnb. So if you're interested in learning how to do any of this, you can book a free discovery call with my team. I'll leave a link in the description down below for you and we'll discuss how we can help you out. Now, as I mentioned, I'm selling everything off and I made a video about it that you can watch right here that will give you a rundown of how all of this even came together in the first place. So click that and I'll see you in that video. Bye.